So, parenting tip number 44 is really important for all ages, and that is to teach your child how to think critically. So, critical thinking skills involve much more than just like spewing the answers out, right? A lot of times, academics is based on memorizing a formula, memorizing historical facts. But critical thinking is what I noticed was a challenge when my daughter Chelsea transferred from a private school, private Christian school, to Mililani Middle, and she was had assignments where health asked a question that involved like what was a better age to be as a parent, right? What age should you lose your virginity? I mean, it was truly questions that you could not Google, and she was so used to Googling, and it was really uncomfortable questions sometimes, and sometimes there were no correct answers. How do you solve bullying? What would happen if you were opening a French restaurant? What would be on your menu and what prices would you charge? That you can Google somewhat, but sometimes if they asked you for the important, your personal themes of a story and why and how it relates to your personal life. That was a hard one. And so, if we teach kids really young and just ask them, like, why do you think that's true? Are there people who think differently? And you can choose, like, even, how politicians argue and how there's a lot of controversy. There are certain, controversial matters that just get people's blood boiling. But if we introduce to kids opposing viewpoints or just varying belief systems and introduce that sometimes people really believe that their way of thinking is right. But if you include that we don't have to agree with different belief systems, but just maybe understand their perspective. Religion is a big one, right? Catholics versus Muslims versus Buddhists versus, I mean, there's if you're agnostic versus if you're an atheist. Religion can be very, very controversial, but introduce where some kids can't eat meat. Why do you think they can't eat meat? Because they're vegetarians. Why do you think they choose to be vegetarians, right? Why can't they ever have a happy meal? Why do they only, why can't they drink soda because they can't have sugar? Why do you think sugar is a bad thing? And really get kids to critically, think why they believe that their way is right. And a lot of times, I mean, when you see a brother and sister arguing, you know, ask, it's almost like you become not the person who decides who's right and who's wrong, but get your kids to try to solve their own um, wars, right? Because every sibling argues. Who's at fault? Does someone have to be at fault? Can they see why their brother or sister thinks totally different from them? A simple question could be, that a child breaks their brother's favorite shirt. Well, not breaks, but maybe stains it, right? And the other child says, well, it was an accident. And his brother says, well, you need to pay for it. And then the sibling says, but if it's an accident, I don't have to pay for it. But you get the gist. The main idea is to teach your child how to think, just critical thinking, which is like more than just what's the answer? Why do you think that's true? How did you get that knowledge? Oh, because I saw it on a cartoon, because I saw it on the news. And then you get to discuss just because you heard it and just because you read it, just because someone told you, does that make it true? I mean, when you think about this parenting tip number 44, it is a huge one because you start really helping your child think outside of the box and really kind of go in depth in why their brain thinks the way that it does. Like if they're scared of, I had a student who was scared of spiders because a spider had crawled over his foot. So forevermore, he was scared of spiders. Someone else watched a scary movie, so they never wanted to sleep with the lights off. But if you really, really understand why people think the way they do, it's not is only, it's not only interesting, but you become more compassionate when you encounter someone with different belief systems. And that is parenting tip number 44. Thanks for watching. Bye.